Was the death of Eddie Van Halen natural, or was there more to his story? Renowned as one of rock's greatest guitarists, Eddie forever transformed the music landscape with his extraordinary riffs. But behind the fame was a man whose life was filled with big challenges and personal battles. So, what led to such a tragic end, and why? Join us as we delve into Eddie Van Halen's remarkable journey, his rise to fame, complex personal life, fierce struggles, and the legacy he left behind. Early life and cultural challenges. Eddie's story begins on January 26, 1955, when Dutch musician Jan Van Halen and his Indonesian wife, Eugenia, welcomed their son, Edward Lovik Van Halen. Raised in a rich tapestry of cultures, Eddie's childhood was framed by both hardship and resilience. The family, living in the Netherlands, faced social challenges. Eddie's older brother, Alex, was born in 1953, and 2 years later, Eddie came into the world. Their early years were marred by prejudice due to their mixed heritage. In 1962, seeking a better life, Eddie's parents made the bold decision to immigrate to the United States. Arriving as newcomers with limited English proficiency, the brothers quickly became targets for bullying, exacerbated by their ethnic background. The social climate of the time, particularly before influential strides were made by the civil rights movement, added to their struggles. Yet, amid these challenges, Eddie discovered his passion for music, a beacon of hope amid adversity. His parents had envisioned a future where their sons would become classical pianists, but everything shifted when the Beatles burst onto the scene. This pivotal moment ignited a musical revolution for Eddie and Alex, steering them towards rock and roll. The formative years of a musician. A surprising twist awaited when Eddie and Alex had to select their instruments. Eddie felt an undeniable connection to the guitar, becoming so immersed in it that he often roamed the house strumming away. However, his musical journey was not without complications. At just 12 years old, Eddie's father introduced him to alcohol, believing it would ease his son's performance anxiety, a misguided decision that would later haunt Eddie. In 1972, the brothers formed a band called Mammoth. However, they struggled to find a lead singer, leaving the role vacant until they met David Lee Roth, a local teen aspiring for rock stardom. Roth, unlike the Van Halen brothers, came from a wealthy family and leveraged his resources, particularly a top-notch PA system purchased by his father, to convince them to let him join. With bassist Michael Anthony completing the lineup in 1974, the band's dynamic began to shift, yet tensions simmered beneath the surface as Eddie and Roth's visions for the band frequently clashed. The Rise of Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen was not only a celebrated guitarist, but also a true innovator. He modified his guitars to create unique sounds, most famously his custom-made Franken-Strat, which allowed him to blend the tonal qualities of a Gibson with the whammy bar of a Fender, an invention that revolutionized rock guitar. However, disaster struck during their 1980 World Invasion tour when Eddie's beloved guitar was stolen while they were staying in a Tulsa, Oklahoma hotel. This instrument was more than just a tool. It was an extension of his artistry, painstakingly crafted over the years. The theft sent shockwaves through the fan community as Eddie desperately sought its return, enlisting the help of security teams and offering a reward. Fans rallied, and against all odds, the Franken-Strat was returned just in time for their next performance. The incident highlighted not just the guitar's importance to Eddie, but also his relentless dedication to pushing musical boundaries. A band transformed. Roth, always focused on commercial success, insisted that the band change their name from Mammoth to Van Halen, believing it would attract more attention. They began playing backyard parties, slowly winning over fans. Their breakthrough came when they started performing on the legendary Sunset Strip in LA. As they honed their debut album, Roth's pop sensibilities perfectly meshed with Eddie's explosive guitar riffs, creating a string of unforgettable songs. Interestingly, the label decided to release a cover of the Kinks' "You Really Got Me" as their lead single, which frustrated Eddie. He had hoped for one of their original tracks to take center stage, setting the tone for a lingering frustration with covers throughout his career. Despite this setback, Van Halen's self-titled debut album, launched in 1978, was a phenomenal success, reaching number 19 on the Billboard charts and solidifying their status as one of rock's greatest debuts. Their subsequent tour further entrenched their place in rock history. Tensions rise within the band. As the band's fame skyrocketed, the cracks in the relationship between Eddie and Roth began to show. Eddie's laser focus on the music contrasted sharply with Roth's penchant for flashy theatrics. Their second album, Van Halen 2, released in 1979, continued to establish their reputation as the ultimate party band, climbing to number 6 on the charts. For the next 4 years, they hardly paused, touring relentlessly and spending mere weeks on each new album. Their third album, Women and Children First, released in 1980, maintained their platinum-selling streak. But as tensions simmered beneath the surface, the atmosphere grew increasingly toxic. Eddie's marriage to actress Valerie Bertinelli, occurring just 8 months after they met, intensified the band dynamics. Roth, already feeling insecure about his position, became increasingly jealous of the media attention Eddie garnered. Feeling creatively stifled, Eddie took control of the fourth album, secretly re-recording it in the style he envisioned and naming it Fair Warning. Unfortunately, upon its release in 1981, the album didn't achieve the sales success of its predecessors, marking a significant downturn. Faced with this disappointment, the band planned a brief hiatus, but Warner Brothers quickly intervened, urging them back into the studio. Roth's push for more cover songs further strained relations, but surprisingly, Diver Down, released in 1982, turned out to be a massive hit. The tipping point. Roth's ego swelled with success, and the friction only escalated. Meanwhile, Eddie grew weary of outside influences and constructed a high-tech recording studio in his home, allowing him to work in solitude. For 6 months, he meticulously developed a new sound, and when Roth finally heard it, he was taken aback by Eddie's shift towards synthesizers over his signature guitar riffs. This bold move paid off. Their 1984 album became a game-changer, led by the chart-topping hit Jump, selling an astonishing 5 million copies within a year. With David Lee Roth's flamboyance and Eddie's jaw-dropping guitar work, Van Halen emerged as a pioneers in the MTV music video landscape, capturing the attention of a younger audience and solidifying their fame. However, internal strife threatened their unity as greed overshadowed their brotherhood. Until then, all 4 members had shared profits equally. But growing tensions led Roth and the Van Halen brothers to feel that bassist Michael Anthony didn't merit an equal cut. In an act that their manager deemed the most despicable he'd witnessed in 40 years in the music industry, they pressured Anthony into relinquishing his songwriting credits and future royalties, effectively reducing him to a paid employee. Meanwhile, Roth, still feeling inadequate, sought greater power within the band. By the end of the 1984 tour, Roth made a pivotal choice. He officially exited Van Halen. Eddie was reportedly devastated, recognizing he had lost one of rock's greatest frontmen. The crucial question lingered. Could Van Halen endure without Roth? In November 1985, Eddie made the daring choice to reach out to Sammy Hagar, a seasoned solo rock star nearly a decade older than himself. Although uncertain about joining, Hagar respected Eddie and agreed to fly to Los Angeles to meet him. Upon hearing the incredible music Eddie had crafted, Hagar couldn't resist the chance to step into the role of Van Halen's new frontman, marking the beginning of the Van Hagar era. A new era of success. Their first collaboration, 5150, dropped in 1986 and soared to number 1 on the Billboard 200, surpassing even the immense success of their previous album, 1984. The next 3 albums released within the following decade also claimed the top spots, solidifying their success. However, as time passed, The camaraderie began to fray as Hagar felt increasingly alienated from the Van Halen brothers due to their ongoing struggles with addiction. Despite these challenges, the band pressed forward. In 1995, they embarked on the arduous Balance Tour, during which Eddie's health issues worsened, particularly severe hip pain. Unbeknownst to him, he was grappling with a vascular necrosis, a condition often linked to alcoholism that restricts blood flow and leads to bone collapse. Although he was scheduled for surgery following the tour, Eddie prioritized his performances, pushing through the pain, a decision that would later haunt him. Tensions and downward spiral. Simultaneously, tensions between Hagar and the Van Halen brothers reached a breaking point. In March 1995, as they prepared to release a greatest hits album, a significant disagreement erupted. Hagar opposed the release, viewing it as a cash grab that would tarnish their legacy, while the Van Halen brothers remained resolute. This clash exacerbated the rift between them, gradually dismantling their once powerful partnership. Shortly after the announcement, their manager Ray Daniels insisted they needed new songs to promote the album, creating an urgent situation. Hagar had taken time off to support his wife during the birth of their son, Andrew. When he landed in Los Angeles for a quick recording session, he learned they could not safely return to Hawaii due to complications in the pregnancy, igniting a heated dispute that ultimately led to Hagar's sudden dismissal from the band. Unbeknownst to him, Van Halen had been negotiating with Roth to contribute new material for the Greatest Hits album. In 1996, during the MTV Video Music Awards, Van Halen shocked fans by reuniting with Roth to present an award. However, what should have been a triumphant moment quickly spiraled into chaos as Roth went off script, much to Eddie's annoyance. Tensions reached a boiling point backstage, culminating in a near-physical confrontation between Eddie and Roth. Following the failed reunion, the band found themselves at a crossroads, ultimately deciding to bring Gary Cherone on as their new lead singer for Van Halen 3 in 1998. Personal crisis and health struggles. Regrettably, the album flopped under high expectations, and by 1999, the band parted ways with Cherone, leaving fans uncertain about Van Halen's future. Meanwhile, Eddie faced his own demons as his hip pain escalated, leading to the need for replacement surgery, which he continually postponed in favor of focusing on his music. By 1999, he finally underwent the procedure and briefly enjoyed quality time with his wife, Valerie, and their son, Wolfgang. However, just as things seemed to improve, devastating news struck. During a routine dental appointment, Eddie's dentist noticed abnormal scar tissue in his mouth. After several biopsies, he received the shocking diagnosis of tongue cancer. Determined to battle the disease, Eddie began chemotherapy in Houston, Texas, and explored alternative treatments. As part of his fight, a significant portion of his tongue was surgically removed. In 2002, Eddie proudly announced he was cancer-free, yet doctors warned him that if he didn't quit smoking, the cancer could return. Despite his triumph over the disease, Eddie's life continued to spiral downwards. In the spring of 2002, he and Valerie announced their separation, and their divorce was finalized shortly thereafter. By 2005, things worsened. Van Halen lacked a record deal or a lead singer, and Eddie succumbed to a deepening depression. When Hagar visited Eddie in 2003, he was alarmed to find Eddie living in squalor, isolated and consumed by substance abuse. Eddie's collaborations and influence. The once magnificent rock star had devolved into a mere shadow of his former self, marked by his physical decline and addiction. Even Eddie's teeth showed visible signs of his struggle, a stark reminder of how far he had fallen. Throughout his life, he faced numerous attempts to curb his reliance on alcohol and drugs, yet his battle seemed unending. In 2007, a surprising comeback took shape when David Lee Roth rejoined the band, with Wolfgang replacing Michael Anthony on bass. This reunion offered a second chance, especially considering Eddie's close relationship with his son, Wolfgang, who was not only joining the band, but becoming a significant part of its future. However, Eddie's personal demons loomed large, threatening to sabotage his revival. During one concert, Eddie appeared visibly intoxicated, prompting a tense confrontation with Wolfgang, who expressed concern for his father's health. This encounter proved pivotal in Eddie's ongoing struggle with addiction. Inspired by Wolfgang's unwavering support, Eddie finally committed to seeking sobriety, embarking on a transformative journey toward recovery. In 2009, Eddie met and married Janie Lisewski, a publicist and stuntwoman. During their wedding, he made a toast with non-alcoholic cider, symbolizing a significant milestone in his recovery journey. He also managed to quit smoking, a habit that had defined his public persona for decades. In 2015, Eddie embarked on a tour while maintaining his sobriety. However, his health took a sharp decline due to the long-term effects of substance abuse. Final years and Eddie's passing. In March 2020, as the world grappled with the pandemic, Eddie's condition worsened. The closure of Germany's borders hindered his access to vital treatments, leaving him isolated. Months later, he was hospitalized with pneumonia, followed by a severe stroke that left him unable to speak and reliant on oxygen. His health continued to deteriorate, and just a month later, he suffered another massive stroke. On October 6, 2020, Eddie's family gathered at the hospital as his condition worsened. Surrounded by loved ones, including his brother Alex, son Wolfgang, wife Janie, and ex-wife Valerie Bertinelli, Eddie's breathing grew faint. With his last ounce of strength, he whispered, "I love you," to his family before taking his final breath at 10:14 a.m. Eddie Van Halen's death certificate cited a stroke as the cause, attributed to his prolonged battle with cancer. Eddie's unique perspective. However, Eddie had his own theories about the origins of his illness. In a 2006 interview on The Howard Stern Show, he made curious claims that caught widespread attention. Regardless of the speculations, Eddie's passing marked the end of an era in rock music, and his legacy as one of the greatest guitarists of all time remains firmly established. Eddie Van Halen's perspective on his tongue cancer was unique. He believed that holding metal guitar picks in his mouth while playing could expose him to electromagnetic fields from studio equipment. Eddie theorized that this exposure contributed to his illness. Although forensic pathologists disputed this claim, Eddie remained steadfast in his belief. He concluded that, since the cancer hadn't metastasized to his lungs, smoking could not have been the culprit, an assumption that tragically led him to continue smoking, unaware of the dire consequences. Tribute and legacy. After Eddie's death, discussions about a potential Van Halen tribute concert gained momentum, with fans eager for a celebration of the band's legendary music. However, those hopes were dashed when Wolfgang Van Halen clarified the situation, revealing that internal conflicts among the surviving members had stalled any tribute plans. The rifts that had plagued the band for years resurfaced, preventing a proper tribute from materializing. By August 2023, Wolfgang officially announced the end of Van Halen as a band, signaling the conclusion of a historic era in rock music. Despite the band's dissolution, Eddie Van Halen's extraordinary legacy continues to resonate. His influence reaches far beyond his own music, inspiring countless young musicians to pick up the guitar and shape the future of the industry. Eddie's innovative playing, technical mastery, and fearless experimentation have forever redefined what is possible with the electric guitar. Though Eddie may be gone, the mark he left on music is indelible. If you find this video interesting, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more mind-blowing content just like this.